I just got done riding the 2025 BMW S1000RR at a BMW demo day in Lexington, Kentucky. Now, of course, this is a superbike built on a racing pedigree. They claim it pushes over 205 horsepower to the rear wheel and 83 pound-feet of torque from the 999cc inline-4 motor. I was ready for this thing to be an absolute unhinged beast. A machine that would rip my arms off and demand my respect with every twist of the wrist. But instead, I was kind of bored. Now, hang on, before you crucify me, let me explain real quick. I was in a controlled test environment, and the single biggest limiting factor here was the riding mode, which the entire time I was riding it in dynamic mode. This provides the full 205 horses, but it's got that electronics leash on pretty tight. So we're talking like aggressive traction control here, wheelie control that cuts power the instant the front tire wants to lift, and then ABS Pro working overtime. So this is kind of the root of the contradiction here with this bike. It's got so much power, full power, but the technology on it is so advanced, it's actually protecting you from the full experience of itself. Now, for context, again, I like to remind you guys, my personal motorcycle is a 2014 Suzuki GSX-R 750. That bike, if you may or may not know, is very raw. It's almost entirely analog. It doesn't really have electronics. I don't even know if the turn signals work. So you have to manage everything on my bike. The S1000RR is basically a masterclass in computer science and engineering in a vehicle. The power is there. They have this thing on there called the ShiftCam variable intake geometry, which optimizes the torque across the entire rev range. But in dynamic mode, you barely get to taste that high lift cam profile before the computer just says, hold up, tone it down, and then it becomes very tame. Also, I do want to mention really briefly that, of course, this was in a controlled riding environment. I was part of a group. I was not allowed to leave the group, and I had to be very careful and make sure that I stayed in formation. That was another big limitation on my test ride here today. Moving on, though, to the sound and the feel of this bike. Two pretty large quirks, I would say. So the sound is actually a major disappointment. So I would say if it may even be the biggest disappointment of this bike. I truly believe that the noise a motorcycle makes is just a part of the entire experience. And the stock exhaust on the S1000RR straight up sounds like a vacuum cleaner, and not a very good vacuum cleaner. It is basically an insult to the 205 horsepower engine. I'm sorry. But this is the harsh reality of modern emissions regulations. This bike is choked by the Euro 5 compliance. You know, they gave you the power at BMW, but they didn't give you the sound. I was very shocked by the brakes, another quirk of this bike. Very, very surprising as to how severe the braking was. They have Brembos on here, but as soon as you touch that lever, it feels like you're going to get bucked off. It doesn't matter if you're going 30 or 130, although I wouldn't know. The bite is immediate on the brakes. Now, let me be clear, this isn't a flaw or even really a complaint. It's actually a feature. This motorcycle is designed for the racetrack. It needs powerful brakes. They also have these things on here called M-brake ducts. It's in the front fender, meant to cool things down and give you maximum stopping force. But with all of that on there, you need to take a lot of care when riding this motorcycle on the road. It's the difference between a racing tool and a road machine. The S1000RR leans heavily toward a racing tool. Let's move on to ergonomics and handling. Unexpected strengths, I would say. Comfort-wise, the comfort is just top tier. I have no complaints about the comfort on this bike or the ergonomics. I was genuinely surprised by how rideable the S1000 felt compared to the other leader bikes I've sat on. I read that BMW has actually modified the rear frame geometry on these, and it just makes it more comfortable for me. My back and my wrists felt less aggressive, much more supported, and it was just very, very comfortable. The handling, effortless. The bike felt incredibly light It was like it was barely there. Very manageable, even at slow speeds. You could barely tell that this thing weighed anything, and the wet weight is 436 pounds, by the way. Obviously, a huge focus for this motorcycle is aerodynamics. They've redesigned the winglets. I'm not sure if this is a new for 2025 thing, but it is new, and they're saying it generates up to 50 pounds of downforce at top speed, keeping the front wheel planted even when the engine is busting its ass to lift it up off the road. When I did manage to open it up, the M Quick Action throttle, which is supposed to reduce the twist angle, it was crisp, it was perfect, and I just felt like I was in all the control. So, to summarize, was I bored riding this motorcycle? Yeah, kinda. Did I wish it was faster? No. I wish I could have ridden it in a different environment. I would love to take this motorcycle out on the track. But the boredom came from the bike being too good, too controlled. I know it sounds stupid. And there's just too much tech on here for a street test where I don't even know if I went over 60 miles per hour. The power is there. They say it peaks at 13,000 RPM. But you have to actively fight the electronics on this thing to find it. So, the S1000RR is a bike of contradictions. It's this beast that's supremely comfortable and very quiet. The engine's really, really smooth. It's got an amazing quick shifter on there as well. I didn't mention that. The electronics are flawless. It's a beautiful machine, but it all hides the true character. The only way to really experience the S1000RR is to put it in race mode, turn off that anti-wheelie and the traction control, and take it to the racetrack, which is where this bike obviously belongs. I rode the monster in its cage, basically. If the S1000RR is this sharp, light, and comfortable before you unlock its true racing potential, I can't wait to see what it can actually do. Thank you for sticking with the video this long. If you have enjoyed, please make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you are new and you like my content, hit the subscribe button and tell a few of your friends as well that you have a brand new motorcycle YouTuber that you really love. And also in the comments, please tell me, do you think the stock exhaust on this bike is as bad as I think it is? Or is that just me being overly critical? All right, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all on the next one. And as always, ride safe. Later.